Hi, I'm Duncan from Fishhead, and today we're talking about the FCL Labo UCB-81 MH Pop. As the name suggests, it is designed as a popper rod, but it also has enough flex in the tip that it can be used as an all-rounder when it comes to larger stick baits as well. So for cast weights, this rod suits anywhere between about 110, 120 grams up to 200 grams. It is rated as a P10 rod, so P8 to 10 rod, and has a drag max rating of 15 kilos, so slightly down on some of the other FCL MH models, but I can explain that as we go on. Component-wise, we've got the nice heavy-duty firm or hard EVA grips, the Fuji reel seat with locking ring, again Fuji stainless frame silicone guides in the MNSG style, so all the heavy-duty stuff through to the tip in that number 16 minimum size for running the big leaders and leader knots. The rod action, it's got quite an elastic tip. So for a rod that is rated specifically as a popper rod, it does have a nice little springy tip to it. So the concept there was that when you're pulling big poppers through the water, the tip does fold away a certain amount and then it steps up into a much stiffer midsection. So in practice, what that means is that it pulls the poppers through the water very well, obviously, with minimum effort. But when you're working some of the larger stick baits, that tip also works very nicely for you. So it does cross over into being an all-rounder with larger stick baits. That stiffness from the midsection there continues on through to the butt and, yeah, typical P10 bottom end. Physically, it's a nice lightweight rod, so that does make it easy when you're casting all day long, and also the responsiveness of the carbon also makes it very easy for the angler when they're casting. So definitely rate this one for punching out long, accurate casts. And weight-wise, the rating is up to 200 grams, and we cast 210 grams with hooks on it as a max weight. And it certainly handled that without too much dramas, but also you can feel that the rod is reaching its maximum at that level. I wouldn't be inclined to go any bigger than that. And it's certainly going to be happy with the 170 gram lures plus hooks, or 160 gram plus hooks is a nice place to be. At the lower end, it casts 130 grams very nicely, but also going below that, I'd say 110, 120 is going to be the bottom end for the rod on this one. Certainly does suit that middle range, that 130 to 190 gram range really well. Okay, so with the Nature Boy Surffish 220, this rod being a lot stiffer, it's very easy to get a darting, twitching action. You don't have to do big, long sweeps to get it going. But if you do rip it through the water hard, it's more likely to porpoise out. So you just need to relax a bit more with your sweeping. Very easy going, not too much effort there. And yeah, definitely you can just little delicate twitches and it'll dance all over the place. So yeah, really quite handy for doing more technical retrieves. Okay, at around that 160 gram mark, the Declaw Bubbles 250 is just super comfortable on this rod, right in the middle of its happy casting range. So the stiffness in the rod definitely makes it easy just to do this nice steady twitching, get a good darting action out of it, but then also long steady sweeps and the lure just swims very nice and easy. So definitely right in its happy place for its the comfort zone lures of this size. And whether it was a stick bait or a popper at this level, it's going to work really, really nicely. All right, the Master Bomb Big Cup 170, you can definitely feel at its fully rigged weight of 210 grams, definitely at the top end of what the rod is comfortable casting, but also getting a much better popping action out of this lure than all the other rods so far on test. It's got that stiffness, that softer tip folds away, and then the stiffness at about a third of the way down really helps to jab the popper into the water and get good blooping action out of it. Still takes a bit of effort, but there's no getting away from it. When you've got a popper this size, it just takes effort to pull that big cup through the water, no matter what rod you're using. Okay, so this is the MH pop rod. As you load this up, the tip folds away nicely initially, but then there's a very distinct step up there at about the 3rd to 4th guide from the butt. And yeah, there's an obvious step up in the taper, and that's what makes it really good at pulling the poppers through the water. And then as you work through that, then we get further down the rod into a nice lifting section. And that's a fairly comfortable lift there at 13 kilos for this rod. So to summarise, the FCL Labo UCB-81 MH pop rod is that, yes, it's a lightweight rod. It feels nice and light in the hand, 380 grams. Any rod that's under 400 grams for PE10 is a nice lightweight rod. It's got that crisp and responsive feel, which is very typical FCL style, and it loves doing technical action to lures. So yeah, little jerks, hard rips, choppy actions, all that sort of stuff is really what this suits extremely well. It is a popper rod, but it will work the larger stick baits very nicely. So say lures over about, stick baits over that 140 gram mark, it's going to pick them up very nicely. It is a PE 8 to 10 rod, but the power is perhaps at the lighter end of the PE 10 range. So we used the 13 kilo lift on this one, and that felt quite comfortable for it, but it didn't want to go a whole lot heavier. I think this suits the angler who wants a really good casting rod that will perform in a range of conditions. The crisp responsiveness helps punch those long, hard, flat casts across on windy days. So definitely makes it easy to cast in all conditions. It works poppers very easily. The stiffness and responsiveness gets a great action from the poppers, and it covers some larger stick baits too. The limitations are, of course, the other end of the spectrum. It's still a popper rod, so smaller floating stick baits, it's going to be a bit over the top and probably make them want to pull out the water a bit too much. And it's not the absolute monster lifting rod, but yeah, definitely for a rod that makes working poppers nice and easy, and as a great all-day rod, we definitely recommend this one. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back next week with another review.